Kia ora, namaste, sat sri akal, adab, game show, vanakkam, hello and welcome. India Live's Prime Time. I'm your host and host, Harmanjeet Kaur Rana, and today we have a great, beautiful personality from Labour Party. She is the one not holding the doctor degree from PhD, but also has done the clinical research in psychology as well. So I won't take further long. Please welcome MP of Banks of Peninsula, MP from Banks of Peninsula, Dr. Tracey McLellan. Please welcome to India Live. Thank you so much, Tracey, for giving us time.
Kia ora, namaste, sat sri akal. Thank you for having me, Harman.
Thank you, Dr. Tracey. This is probably the first time. All the Labour parties definitely they say Kia ora and namaste, but you're the one who said Sat Sri Akal as well. So thank you.
That's my favourite.
When we talk about Sat Sri Akal, I still remember that was the first time history was created, and Honorable Prime Minister visited Christchurch Gurudwara, Singh Sabha. So thank you so much. This is a biggest thing, I believe, which was missing. And as a South Island Kiwi Indian, I believe it was a big achievement. The Honorable Minister came here just to address and listen the concerns what community wanted to say. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, and it was a fantastic visit. It always is. I've been there several times, and the community are always so welcoming. So it was exciting for me to have my boss and be able to show him what a lovely, joyful place the temple is. It is great. And one of the issues that they raised with me was about parking. So I have been looking into that too. So
yeah, that's the one of the concern. But also there are some issues I would like to address today. And if you feel okay, I will start the hardest one, and the one I think which also relates to your clinical research as well, which is health sector. Big concern for all New Zealand citizens. The amount of time, and even if I say the division between North Island and South Island. I used to live in North Island, Whangarei and Auckland, and the GP used to cost me just $18, $20 or $25 max. But when I came to I'll say Rolleston in 2020, all of a sudden the GP cost now me $60. Why there is a big difference? Just trying to connect the dots. We are living in the same country, but the different rates. Is there something you could like to on, please?
Yeah. And it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because essentially the short answer is that primary health GP practices are private businesses, and the government supports them through a capitation rate where we subsidise or we pay a fee for every patient that's seen. But the business itself can still add on a cost, add on a charge directly to the patient, and we don't really have much of an ability to control what that might be. We've certainly got some levers to keep it within those parameters. But there are some GP practices in Christchurch, but I'm not sure in Rolleston who do offer the sort of $15 to $25 consultation fees. But it's one of those things that's an ongoing issue because we have our hospital system, which of course is state run, and then we have our primary health system, which is almost exclusively private practice and private business.
For sure, because I believe health sectors, if you're going directly to the hospital, it can somehow burden, the surgeons and all the other things, which probably doesn't need a little flu or viral. We just can go and see the GP. But sometimes because...
Yeah. And it is, because you've hit the nail on the head. It's part of an integrated system, and one action has ripple effects all the way through the system. So, whilst we want to keep people well and out of hospital, we also want to make sure that the GP clinics aren't completely overrun and clogged up. So one of the things we tried this year, which I think we'll certainly be looking at extending, is helping the pharmacists take care of those minor winter ailments. So, they were able to take care of a whole range of things that people might have otherwise gone to a GP, but the pharmacist could fix it up, right there and then. So if we can just sort of smooth out some of the ways that we do health, and part of that is also looking at all of our health workforce. Maybe nurses could be doing a little bit more of what sometimes, doctors do now. And there's only so much tinkering you can do, but every little bit helps. And I think it's quite exciting. There's lots of innovation to be had in health.
Yes. So that's great to hear that there are some background work which Labour Party is thinking and, are concerned and listening to the community. That's one of the things. What I understood is during this, all these newses which I'm hearing now, Dr. Tracey, one of the biggest concern which is migrant exploitation. We were short of employees during the COVID and, lockdowns worldwide. It was a phenomenon, but the local businesses are still suffering. It's not only employees. Sometimes I'll say employees and employers both have somehow found the loophole points. What will be the Labour Party plans to stop to the people who are actually misusing the aggregation process?
Yeah, and it's a terrible situation. Migrant exploitation is a crime. It's repugnant, and we do need to do things to make sure people just can't get away with that. And most importantly, we need to look after the people that we're inviting here to be part of our community and to work. So previously, the minister had asked Immigration New Zealand to strengthen some of those systems, some of those checking in systems, not only when the employer applies to be accredited, but also checking up on some of those job applications, those individual cases. But today, the Honourable Andrew Little has announced a new package which will go towards helping. So the package of funding means that there's some extra accommodation and essential living support. So if anybody is a victim of migrant exploitation, they can apply to have those costs covered, and to also apply for a new visa that we just announced today, which is a migrant exploitation protection visa. Because, people often were so vulnerable that they didn't come forward and let us know what was happening, because they didn't want to lose their job, even though their job was exploitative. So by having this new visa and having this financial support to keep them in the country and look after them while they get a new job, that takes away a lot of that fear. So we think that that's a pretty good balance in the right direction.
Yes.
And there's also some free help to look for the new job and removal of that 90-day trial.
Yes. So that was one of the great things which was introduced just currently when we are recording this session. So thank you so much, Honorable Minister Andrew Little, and I will look into the written policies as well. But thank you for bringing out the points, Dr. Tracey. When we talk about migration exploitation, but there's another thing about local businesses. When we want to support local businesses, and I think after COVID, all the headlines are coming up as a New Zealand's newspapers or big news as another ram raid happened. Local businesses shut for 1 week. Last Sunday, if I'll say, Christchurch have seen 10 young people did the 7 different crimes, which was like, this was not the New Zealand. And certainly this is not the New Zealand we want for our next generation. What will be the Labour Party's plan to put a stop on these kind of things?
Well, I think there's a few things because there's no simple answer to this. But one of the most important things, I believe, is we need extra police. So we've certainly committed over the last term in government to make sure that we have 1,800 extra police. And most of those police are, on the beat. There's some that are as part of, very specialised policing in terms of organised crime, because crime takes many different forms, doesn't it? So we think that funding the police properly, increasing the police numbers, and actually just giving them some more tools, the tools that they need to do their job properly, is a step in the right direction. Now, the ram raids are quite unique, aren't they? It's such a kind of not a new crime, so to speak, but it's something totally new, and it's fueled by young people committing it. It's fueled by social media. So it's quite complicated, and we have to get to grips with how we're going to deal with this. So the circuit breaker program that we introduced over a year ago now, it saw all of those traditional sort of agencies and groups that wrap around support being coordinated so that they had sort of 12 or 24 hours after post police picking them up, having done a ram raid, they had a really short expectation of wrapping those services around the families of those children, because we want to prevent the younger siblings getting involved. It's become glamorized through social media, and sometimes it's not the usual suspects. I know that when I've spoken to police locally, they say how they've gone to a certain school and said, oh gosh, here's the 4 people that we caught over the weekend, and the school's been really shocked at who those 4 students were, because that it's not the kids that they thought would be doing this. So we've got to have a balance between getting them off the street and making them accountable for what they're doing, but also making sure that because they're so young that it doesn't inevitably lead them on a pathway where there's no return from that pathway. So it's about supporting them and making them accountable. One of the things we did do recently, which was a little bit controversial, but we lowered the age of arrest for those things. And it wasn't to be punitive for the sake of it. It just meant that unless there was an arrest, some of the support services weren't available. So for those sort of 12-year-olds, if 14-year-olds were committing the crime, they were getting that support, but the 12-year-olds weren't. So we've lowered that age so that they can go through that process, and we can increase that accountability and that support.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Tracey. One of the other concern about it's not only the local businesses, but also each and every New Zealand citizen is facing, or if I say worldwide phenomena, inflation rate. Yeah. What will be Labour Party's plan for, economical stability? I know we can't just stop inflation, but is there any way we can at least afford a good food, to our dinner 3 times or at least 2 times a meal? It should be nice on each and every New Zealand should have.
Yeah, and you're so right, and it's tough at the moment, and we know that. We're talking to people every day, and people who never thought that they would struggle are struggling, or it's only taking one appliance to break down, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So we know it's tough. The good news is that inflation has peaked and it is coming down. Inflation, I think we're sitting at 6% now, which is less than Australia, less than the UK, not quite as good as the US, but certainly better than most countries that we would normally compare ourselves with. So that's all very well and good, but I think what you're saying is, what do we do in the meantime to help people, to support people whilst that comes all the way down to that 2 or 3% that we feel comfortable with? And I think there's no one thing, there's no piece of magic that we can pull out. But the removing the prescription charges from medicines is one thing. Extending the 20 hours free early childhood to 2-year-olds can save people around about $130 a week. Removing GST off the fruit and vegetables can be a little bit of a help, but it also might make the difference between people choosing a healthy food versus people not choosing a healthy food. And we know that lots of people asked us to do that. So that's something that we're pretty pleased with. And also public transport, for a lot of people, public transport is a really good way of getting around. So making it free for children and keeping it half price for people under 25 or people with community service cards, that can make a really big difference to the weekly budget. So we're going to continue doing that as well.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you. And the economy is growing. We've got some growth in the economy. So I think that's something to look forward to. Tourism's coming back, exports are up. We've got those free trade agreements in place. So there's still things to be really optimistic about. We've just got to get through this hump of this stubborn inflation.
Yes. No, every bit counts. And thank you, Dr. Tracey. I know, Labour Party is more concerned than me of all these matters, because This is something you are being asked every day. But another one question, if I may
Mhm.
ask, as being Indian, belong to Indian community. When I came to New Zealand back in 2012, there was no other way I can bring my family together. The family cases were shut down, and all parents categories were not accepting even the cases. So thank you so much, at least reopening that. But I still feel there are some families who still cannot afford it. Will Labour be concerned? Will be looking into some matters somehow to provide a way where the parents can stay longer, even if it's a visitor visa, so that the family can get together.
Yeah. And actually that's something that we are really, really trying to make happen, because it's advocated for so well by the Indian community in particular, who are quite right when they say, look, we look at Canada, we look at other places around the world, and it just looks a bit more attractive. And this is a really solid, practical thing that we could do to just make it a little bit nicer. We're relying on people to come here and to add to our rich community and to add to our skilled workforce. So I think that we have to look really, really seriously about how we can make particularly anything to do with family, because there's so many benefits, isn't there? Having that extended family, as you say, it not only enhances your experience of how you experience life in New Zealand, but there's lots of other benefits, isn't there? There's the babysitting and the cultural richness of all of those exchanges, and the community work and the helping out and the being part of something. So I mean, I can't make any policy announcements on India Live. I'd be in big trouble, wouldn't I? But it's certainly something that I know that we talk about frequently, and even
You're looking into it.
even
That's
amongst ourselves, we're like, what can we do? What can we do? So we're trying our best.
No, thank you, Dr. Tracy. I know there's not one thing I was expecting, of course, not a big announcement on India Live, but at least you are looking into it. That's a big surety for community. You are hearing that's one of the great things, at least the voice is being heard. Any last message would you like to say to our Indian live viewers today?
Well, I just want to say, as I said at the start, thank you for always making me feel so much araha and very welcome when I have come to your places where you gather, and when you've come to see me when we've had specific issues to work through in my office. I just think that the community is very joyful. The huge number of celebrations that you managed to put together, and the huge amount of work and all of that giving of time and energy to make life better, not only for your own communities, but to be so welcoming to other people who are lucky enough to join in all those celebrations, really speaks a strong testament to the character of the culture. So thank you very much for having me here today. Please make sure that you stay engaged through the election process. I know that sometimes people think, oh, I don't know enough, so I won't vote. But it's everybody's right to vote, and certainly from my perspective, I would love to keep doing and build on the work that we've already done. I believe that Labour puts people at the heart of everything we do, and but I do encourage you to vote and to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tracy. Yes, the voting power is the biggest power we hold in democracy. One should not left behind. Please, 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 each and every interview, I do urge my viewers, go and vote. At least, regardless what color, being neutral, I cannot say which color you want to choose, but just voice down there, just show that you are alive and you are a proud New Zealand citizen. This is how we can provide a great next generation, great country and the policy. So thank you so much, Dr. Tracy, for your such a time. And we look forward to meeting you another cultural event with the great food and the dresses.
Yeah. I've got quite a collection of beautiful scarves at the moment, so I'm looking forward for another week outing.
Awesome. Cool. So thank you so much, Dr. Tracy. So this was a great personality, our very own MP from Banks of Peninsula, Dr. Tracey McLellan from Labour Party. Thank you so much. This is Harmanjit Kaur Rana signing off from Prime Time from India Live. Sat Shri Akal.